Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions three. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
Bo, Pat, someday somebody's going to have to explain to me the virtue of a proportional response.
I would agree.
And we're just diving right in here, apparently. So much fun that I'm sitting watching this movie going, he said the thing that they said on West Wing.
He said the
Yep.
thing. What's next?
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
Or
Hey,
that's the guy.
John.
He's on the West Wing too.
Yeah.
We're going to watch this movie, talk about it, don't talk about it. It's entirely up to you.
There you go.
That's another. There's a fun, well, I'm sure there's a bunch, but there's a fun YouTube video about just the different characteristics of a Sorkin script or indicators, like a lot of his go-to lines or his certain, ideas and so forth. And it's fun. It's a fun watch.
Sorkinisms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen that YouTube thing or?
I think I have. Yeah, I'd have to go back and take a look, but.
Well, and it's really fun with this one. Like, I think, like you said, it's fun seeing Martin Sheen in the role, like AJ, I think is his character's name, but he's the Leo McGarry of this one.
Yes.
And, and just like the Leo McGarry in the West Wing, very smart, very intelligent, very much a leader within the administration, but like very much with, you're the president at that supersedes you being my friend. I'm going to call you yes sir, no sir. Right? Like,
not that I want to shortchange this movie at all, but I feel like this movie is like West Wing, The Phantom Menace. Like, this is a prequel to The West Wing.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, like, they ended up using the sets. We really are getting ahead of ourselves here. But, yeah, it's, I feel like we're walking and talking here. It's a very Sorkin thing to do, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
If you're gonna Sorkin, you might as well Sorkin.
Yeah.
And even many of the concepts you could see that get hinted at in this. It's like, okay, we're going to drill down and make like an entire episode or block of episodes about this.
Yeah.
Like it really.
And if you want to have a couple of idealists helm something like this, then Rob Reiner and Aaron Sorkin are like your duo.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, before we get too much further into this, if you haven't guessed it, here's our guessing game. Guess what movie we're talking about?
It's time for 3 questions.
It's time for 3 questions. What are the 3 words that make up the title of this movie? Number 1, the. Number 2, American. Number 3, president. So this time around, yes, we are talking the 1995 movie. Aaron Sorkin wrote it. Rob Reiner directed it. The American President. Very, very quickly, we spoil freely here. This is pretty much your only warning. And visit our website, 30podcast.com, where you can leave a rating, a voicemail. You can join us over on Patreon. We've got our bonus episodes over there. Some free ones, some on the paid, some behind the paywall. But yes, lots of good stuff. And thank you so much to our folks over there that help us cover some of the costs of running the show. And then you get a little bonus content and bonus stuff in trade there. So. We've already kind of jumped into it, so I feel like we might as well just go right ahead. So I'm going to jump right into our Trivia Pursuits section here. Our release date for this one is November 17th, 95. Rated PG-13, although they do get away with 3 F-bombs. I think said pretty much in rapid-fire succession next to each other at some point. So they were able to keep their PG-13 rating, even though there's 3, and normally, typically, you can only get away with 1. Runtime was 1 hour, 54 minutes, directed by Rob Reiner, who also did When Harry Met Sally and A Few Good Men. Writer was Aaron Sorkin, who also wrote A Few Good Men and The Social Network, at West Wing as well. Producer was Rob Reiner, who did Misery and The Bucket List. Composer was Mark Shaman, who did Hairspray and City Slickers. Cinematographer was John Seal, who did The English Patient and Mad Max Fury Road. Editor was Robert Layton, who did Misery and This Is Spinal Tap. Production company is Castle Rock Entertainment. Budget $62 million. Box office $107.9 million. Flick metrics, it got a 69% there. Cinema score, it got an A.
69, huh?
Nice. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know, the collection and aggregation of the different websites that Flickmetrics pulls from, I think had roughly hovering around about a mid-C to C- kind of range, and ended up averaging out to a 69. So, yeah. Everyone has the right to be wrong. So, and in aggregate, I guess you can also be slightly wrong.
It's true.
Yeah. I want to say Gene Siskel, or was it Ebert? I think, no, Ebert gave it 4 stars.
Yes,
So,
I can't recall. I watched that review, but it's been like 3 weeks ago now, and I cannot recall. I want to say Siskel. Did Siskel not care for it? I'm trying to remember. Ebert.
Well, if I remember, and this is an old memory, so I wouldn't count too much on it. But if I remember correctly,
at this stage in our lives, aren't all of our memories old memories?
It's fair.
Okay.
Ebert tended to like the Reiner style.
Yes.
So it would jive that they would have come out that way, because
Yes.
I feel like that could be a thing.
Yeah. The actors in this one: Michael Douglas played President Andrew Shepard. He was in Fatal Attraction and Wall Street. Annette Bening was Sydney Ellen Wade. He was in American Beauty and The Kids Are All Right. Martin Sheen was A.J. McInerney. He was in Apocalypse Now and The Departed. Michael J. Fox was Louis Rothschild. He was in Back to the Future and Teen Wolf. Anna Devere Smith was Robin McCall. He was in Rachel Getting Married and Philadelphia. Samantha Mathis was Janie Bastin. Was in Little Women, the 1994 version, and Broken Arrow. Shauna Waldron was Lucy Shepard. She was in Little Giants and The New Adventures of Old Christine. David Paymer was Leon Kodak. He was in Quiz Show and Mr. Saturday Night. Richard Dreyfuss was Senator Bob Rumson. He was in Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
And he's running for president.
Nina Samazko played Beth Wade. She was in The West Wing and Airheads. Wendy Malick played Susan Sloan, who was in Hot in Cleveland and Just Shoot Me. And Bo Billingsley played Agent Cooper, who was a voice in Cowboy Bebop and Star Trek Into Darkness. All right. Some trivia on this one. Some of the obvious trivia that we've kind of already talked a little bit about is that there are a lot of things that were unused story elements from this that ended up getting folded into the hit TV show The West Wing. Several sets. I think the White House set was originally built for the movie Dave, and then they also ended up using it in The West Wing as well. And then obviously there's some actors in this one that also make the transition over to The West Wing or have worked with Aaron Sorkin or Rob Reiner as well in several other projects. So originally, I believe, I don't think he wrote it. I think he may have came up with some of the story ideas and may have originally been set to play the president in this, but I believe Robert Redford was originally attached to this. Yeah, his original pitch to a bunch of screenwriters was, what if there was a movie where the president elopes? And then my understanding is he was originally set to be the lead actor for this. I want to say that Rob Reiner and Robert Redford did not agree with each other creatively. They did not necessarily get along so well. So one Rob had to go.
see.
Ended up being Robert Redford.
Very few directors could Bigfoot Mr. Redford, but Mr. Reiner probably, yeah.
Apparently, Robert Redford wanted this to be more of a straight-up love story. Reiner wanted the politically driven story, and they could not agree on it, and they ended up going Rob Reiner's route. Aaron Sorkin apparently later admitted in a TV Guide interview that he wrote the screenplay while addicted to crack cocaine and living at the Four Seasons Hotel in Los Angeles.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stories like that.
A bit of stuff going on. Apparently, I guess your average screenplay in Hollywood is maybe like 120 pages. What I believe I read is that when he turned in his first crack at this, I'm sorry, crack, that was not meant as a pun.
Oh boy.
His first attempt, let's say that. When he turned in his first attempt at this one, it was something like 385 pages. So, needless to say, there was probably plenty of stuff that didn't get used in this movie that was in his original draft that he could then turn around and go, all right, this goes to the West Wing, this goes to the West Wing, I'm going to use this in the TV show.
Interesting.
So, and it was interesting too, like some of the different characters, I'm blanking out on what her name was, but the secretary that worked right outside of the Oval Office, no, her name was not Mrs. Landingham, but she was basically a Mrs. Landingham character.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, you could absolutely see where they're laying the groundwork for the West Wing in this one.
Yeah. Certain roles, like you said, that are fulfilled, certain character types that are in there.
Yeah.
Just the way that the White House runs, you know, like it's not like, well, no, it's not like a militaristic kind of yes sir, no sir, but it's very structured.
It's structured and snappy.
Structured and snappy, did you say?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's structured, it's snappy. Everybody's got their role. We're going to fit into that. You know, the idea of different voices and opinions on how things should be run are there. They don't necessarily delve because they don't have the time, because I think that's more worked out in the West Wing, to where you have different opinions of a certain political point, right? Like, okay, well, this is a more lefty approach. This is a more conservative approach. You don't quite have room for that. But when you do have voices of dissent, it's usually on how to handle something, right? Like, do you hit it head on? Do you fight the fight? And I think they even say in there, you fight the fight because it's worth fighting. You know, like there's that concept. And I think a lot of that is very much what's articulated in the West Wing TV program in that White House. Again, it's the very precise, it's the very snappy, professional, and it's always it's the idea of fight the good fight and stand up for your ideals. You know, a good speech, words can move people.
Yes.
I think those concepts are. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's kind of the Aaron Sorkin way, is that if you can have a good sense of humor, if you can work hard and speak eloquently or articulately, then you can get a lot of things done.
Yeah. And it really, this is the deep thoughts segment, right?
We are. We're kind of like already. Yeah, it's all right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, because I'll save it for the deep thoughts, so we have something to talk about then too.
That's all right. Yeah. We can go ahead and do the major moments real fast, and then we can get back into the deep thoughts. So, we're very excited. So we're walking, we're talking, we got into it. We got very excited. All right. Quick synopsis. Then we'll play the trailer audio for you. In a world where politics rule the headlines, President Andrew Shepard risks it all for love when he meets Sidney Ellen Wade. As his trusted aides watch closely, romance and leadership collide. And what will it mean for the American people and the American president?
The president has asked me to convey to you that he's sending his energy bill to the floor with a call for a 10% reduction.
The president's expecting our full support.
Yes, he is.
The
Sydney.
president's dreaming, AJ. The president
Sydney?
has critically misjudged reality. If he honestly thinks that the environmental community is going to whistle a happy tune while rallying support around this pitifully lame mockery of environmental leadership, then your boss is the chief executive of Fantasyland.
Good morning, Mr. President. How are you today?
I couldn't be better. My apologies for the interruption.
Mr. President, I don't know what to say. I'm speechless.
All evidence to the contrary. What would happen if I called Sydney Wade and asked her to be my date at the state dinner on Thursday evening?
President can't just go out on a date.
I'm having dinner at the White House.
I'm having lunch at the Kremlin.
I don't know what happened. One minute I was calling him a mockery of an environmental leader. The next minute I had a date.
She didn't say anything about me.
Well, no, sir, but I can pass her a note before study hall.
Would you like to dance?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yes, sir. I'd love to.
Never mind that she is the hired gun of an ultra-liberal political action committee. And never mind that his 12-year-old daughter is sleeping down the hall.
Lucy, are you okay with this? My having dinner with a lady?
Dad, it's cool. Just go for it.
Never mind any of that, folks. My name is Bob Rumson, and I'm running for president.
In the past 7 weeks, 59% of the country has begun to question your family values.
This poll doesn't talk about my presidency. This poll talks about my life.
I gotta nip this in the bud. This has catastrophe written all over it. Sydney, the man is the leader of the free world. He's brilliant, he's funny, he's an above-average dancer. Isn't it possible our standards are just a tad high?
Do you think there'll ever be a time when you can stand in a room with me and not think of me as the president?
All right. 10 major moments. We wrap it all up for you in a nice little package, nice little gift basket of 10 major moments. Moment number one.
Gift basket with perhaps with a Virginia ham in it.
A Virginia ham, yes, yes. Ham. All right, before we become the food podcast. Popular President Andrew Shepard, played by Michael Douglas, and his Chief of Staff A.J. McNerney, played by Martin Sheen, plan to solidify his 63% approval rating by passing a moderate crime control bill aiming to ensure an easy re-election. However, when Shepard's cousin Judith falls ill before a state dinner, the president confronts his loneliness. Shortly after, he meets Sydney Ellen Wade, played by Annette Bening, a passionate environmental lobbyist, and invites her to be his guest at the state dinner after he is impressed with her performance at a meeting in which she kind of berates him, not realizing that he is right behind her. Shepard and Wade strike a bit of a deal during their growing acquaintance. Shepard promises Wade that if she can secure 24 congressional votes for her environmental bill, he will personally deliver the last 10, setting up some political stakes intertwined with their personal affections. As Shepard and Wade's relationship deepens into love, the media and political opposition intensify their scrutiny, turning their private relationship into a very public political liability. Senator Bob Rumson, played by Richard Dreyfuss, he is running for president, accuses Shepard of ethical improprieties, targeting Sydney's activist background and the president's perceived moral decline, causing Shepard's approval ratings to tumble. After Wade reports that Michigan congressmen oppose both her bill and Shepard's crime bill, the president and his team face a moral dilemma: use this sensitive information to secure political gains or uphold their ethical standards. Despite Sydney obtaining her needed votes, Shepard chooses to sacrifice the environmental bill to lock in the crucial votes he needs for the crime bill, straining his relationship with Sydney and revealing some political compromise over personal commitment to her. Sydney, who's devastated both personally and professionally by after losing her job, confronts Shepard. She accuses him of prioritizing a weak crime bill over a meaningful change She decides to leave Washington, D.C. for a new job opportunity. On the eve of his State of the Union, Shepard unexpectedly addresses the White House press corps. He denounces Rumsfen's smears, reaffirms Sidney's integrity, and commits to introducing a much stronger environmental bill while scrapping the entire crime bill in favor of tougher gun control. Reinvigorated by his decision to prioritize principle over political gain, Shepard wins back public admiration. He and Sidney reconcile. The movie closes with Shepard heading into the House chamber to thunderous applause, which often is how liberty dies, but not in this case, to deliver his State of the Union address. Those are the 10 major moments. And now, continuing the segment that we started earlier, is Deep Thoughts.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot. Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
Okay, this is Deep Thoughts 2, Electric Boogaloo. All right, gentlemen, it is time for Deep Thoughts. Let us gather ye rosebuds while we may. When was the first time you saw this, and what is your overall opinion of the movie?
Sure, I saw it soon after it came out. I don't think we saw it in the theaters, but HBO, cable, something of that nature. I love this movie. The acting's good. The dialogue is good. The palace intrigue is fun. Yeah, more American President, more better.
Yeah, same. We saw it when it came out. I want to say this might have been a family trip to the theater. And if it wasn't, trying to think of the years and how old my brother and sister would have been if they would have come with us, or if it was like my mom and dad had date night and went to the movies and then later rented it and we watched it as a family when it came out. But yeah, I agree with Bo. Really like this movie, always have, and it feels very, I'm going to say current, and that's not going to be accurate because I think there's a lot that establishes it as a time that was 30 years ago, but it just seems very fresh and new. It doesn't seem stale and dated and old. You know what I'm saying? It just seems very. I can watch it and it feels very fresh. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Of a time when any president could have had a 63% approval rating?
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm like, okay, this is a time in politics 30 years ago. Okay. So when this movie came out, if we looked 30 years back in time from the point when I first saw this movie, that would be the Johnson administration or the Kennedy administration, depending on what part of the year, right?
Yeah.
So I when you look at that, and I think it's funny, Jeff and I were having this discussion the other day, and it's like, does that idea make you feel old? And it's like, well, no, it doesn't make me feel old, but it makes me feel like a continuity. Like if my son was to watch this movie, or some of the people that we work with were to watch this movie, they're not going to feel a continuity to the mid 90s and the zeitgeist of the time. Right now, they might study it. It's not that they can't love it. This is, or understand it or have an opinion. I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper type thing, but it's like, I remember this time, so I feel a continuity to this time. And so when I watch it, the concepts seem very fresh and okay, they apply, and it's something that I can, understand. But when I think back to when this first came out, if you ask me something 30 years before, I don't have that continuity to the time, right? Like I was never alive during, 30 years before this movie came out. I wasn't alive. So that would feel like forever before. Yeah. But this, you know, I had that link to that time period. And I think the message in it is very fitting for any time. So I think that's, I think that's a very, that's very, a very important part of why this movie feels fresh and current as well.
Well, and I think part of this, to answer my original question, I'm sure I saw this not too long after it came out, but also um, my girlfriend through high school, also my current wife, she was very much into politics, and so we tended to watch a lot of Dave, American President, Primary Colors, Wag the Dog. You know, if there's a political movie, we probably watched it at some point. And there seemed to be kind of a slew of political movies in the mid 90s coming out at that point. And I want to say part of that is because now, granted, in my household growing up, it was very much a more Republican leaning household. So most of the comments I recall hearing at that point in time, especially when we were living overseas, was that some of my family did not care for the current president at that time, which would have been Bill Clinton. And so they were thankful that they were living overseas, that they didn't have to deal with some of that stuff. But knowing how Hollywood usually tends to lean, and filmmakers in particular, this probably was a bit of an idealistic time, I'm guessing, for Aaron Sorkin, Rob Reiner, these type of people, because you had what seemed like a young-ish kind of idealistic, hopeful president in Bill Clinton, and then this is before you have the Monica Lewinsky scandal, or before all that stuff was made public, which I think, if I read correctly, was, because I was trying to find it so I could remind myself, I think that was like 97, 98 that all that stuff came out. So you're still at a point where the presidency is, or can be, for at least half the country, or a little over half the country maybe, kind of a hopeful, honorable position. It's you've got hope for the future. It's kind of the traditional, how people thought of John F. Kennedy kind of a thing. I think we're still, a lot of people may have still have been in that mode in 1995. And so that's why I'm not sure, given how polarizing things have been, regardless of what side of things you're on, given how polarizing things have been for the last, I don't know, let's say 25 years-ish. Yeah, I don't know that you could have a movie do well that is showing the American president in a personal light like this, where it's a movie about him balancing his, his duty to the American people, his duty both to, no, I'm not going to go that route. That's, we let the Greatest Gen guys say that one. But I'm not sure you could make this movie today. Like, I don't think you could have a movie where you have the president of the United States of America in and I hesitate to call this a rom-com because I don't think it really is, but in that kind of a situation where it's kind of a love story, kind of political intrigue, but kind of a love story. I don't think you could do that, because I think everything is so divided that you're not going to have enough people come see that movie to make it worthwhile.
I'd agree with that.
I think people have a very different thought of the presidency now, even if it's a president you might have voted for. I feel like there's a lot of people that just have a very different thought of that entire office and what it is and what it means, that it would be very tough, I think, to make a movie like this and have it be successful now. So to say that, yes, in 1995, this is a movie that is of its time 30 years ago is to say I'm not sure you could do this again, at least right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, no, I definitely hear where you're saying that.
I mean, can you picture if you have, let's just take the title of the movie, like Shakespeare in Love. Can you imagine either Biden in love or Trump in love? No, not so much.
There is an image for you. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
That's what I needed.
I'm nothing if not thorough.
Yeah, and I think,
sure.
And I think too, what what this, and I think that Sorkin continued this well in Dave. Well, not continued it in Dave. Dave came out first, but he continued it in The West Wing, and you see it in some of his different films. Is the way the characters are written is that they're powerful people, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they've got big responsibilities, that they are making these epically big decisions, and they're very smart, and they understand, the process, and they understand how politics work, and they understand what they're, what they're trying to do. But his writing has a way of humanizing them and making them like, regular people too, right? Showing that side of them. I mean, just the thing that came out in the trailer when he's like, did she talk about me? Did she mention me? The idea that, that's something that, a couple of teenagers would be talking about at lunch. Did she say anything about me?
No, but I could pass her a note in study hall.
Exactly. And then there's that line that just
How many
really,
times did you pass notes in study hall, John?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Right. I mean, I think that's one of the hallmarks of his writing, and that's what makes this movie. We've just been talking about how it is of a time. 30 years ago, that's the way politics were kind of looked at, and this movie could be enjoyed, even if I would think, even if you didn't necessarily agree with the political leanings that were being presented in it.
Well, that's one of the things
that's where
Aaron
it
Sorkin
humanizes it, and it makes it an enjoyable story.
That's one of the things I think Aaron Sorkin does really well in his writing, no matter what the show is, whether it's West Wing, whether it's this movie, whether it's one of my other favorites, The Newsroom, all these different shows that he does, is I think he's showing you what could be the ideal, like what you would hope. You would hope these are the people, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, you would hope that these are the type of people that are fighting for, your interests or the country's interest in Washington, D.C. These people that have strong opinions, and they are bold people, and they speak up for what's right, and they are very well spoken, and they have these philosophical debates on these kind of things. When Michael J. Fox goes into that whole thing of like, no, he is my president. He does answer to me. I'm a citizen. He answers to me. This is whether it's right or left, Republican, Democrat, whatever it might be. I think that's one of the things that Aaron Sorkin does really well, because even on The West Wing, even if, and it's always pretty clear that, Aaron Sorkin would be, left-leaning, he doesn't demonize the Republicans in The West Wing.
Mm-hmm.
And even to a certain, I mean, it's a little bit stronger in this when you look at Senator Rumson. It's a little bit stronger in this that he's the bad guy, but he's not not a bad guy. And I think Sorkin still does that well. Like, he balances it well enough that it's not polarizing. It's not like, well, here is a clear good versus a clear bad. These are two different groups of people, and they have different ways of doing what they think is best for the country. Now, you can question whether or not the rest of the country would agree with them, right or left. Yeah, but I think that's one of the things he does well, is he tries to create characters and situations and monologues that show you what you would hope is going on in a place like Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if somebody's sitting there in the Oval Office and just throwing ideas at a dartboard, like, I really hope that's not what's happening. I hope they're having debates like this. I hope they're having fast-paced, walking, talking conversations like this to get things done, and figuring out what the virtue of a proportional response is, and things like that, or trying to determine, what type of map of the world we should use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think it's important to say that. I think it's equally as important to say they should have those debates, but they should have them in those rooms, not in front of an open microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what creates fear and fervor.
Yeah.
It
The
comes from a conversation I've had lately with someone.
I'm not sure the American people want to see you workshopping ideas.
Exactly. And the conversation basically stemmed from, well, isn't this what we want from our president? I said, yes. Not in front of an open microphone.
Yeah. I want the polished version. I don't want the let's work it out, on the fly kind of a deal.
Indeed.
Yeah. So what about this movie? I mean, this is it's not as I'm trying to hesitate as to whether I think I'm going to say that obviously Dave to me feels more like a love story. And not that this one doesn't. Maybe Dave has more comedy to it. It's different kinds of comedy. And I think I've been trying to decide which of the two movies I think I like better with regard to the love story aspect of it. I think that as what would I have been at the time? A 14-year-old when these movies would have come out. I think at age 14, I gravitated more towards Dave, maybe because of the comedy piece of it.
Well, I mean, come on, the idea of the guy pretending to be the president, that's outstanding.
Right. So I think I gravitated more towards that. This is a little bit more of an adult, widower president falls in love with somebody, but also has to balance his political life with his love life. This is a little bit more adult skewing. So I don't think that if I did watch this as a 14, 15-year-old, that's probably one of the reasons why I haven't watched this movie very much, is because I gravitated more towards something like Dave at the time. Now, as an adult watching this and knowing that it's an Aaron Sorkin story, which I enjoy pretty much everything he's done, just because I like that style of dialogue, that kind of snappy style that we were talking about. I probably would be more willing to rewatch this one more regularly, not at the expense of rewatching Dave, but in addition to. But yeah, what about that aspect of the story, the love story part of it? If we're breaking it apart, we've talked a little bit about kind of the political side of things. How does that work for you in this movie? Does this work for you as a love story between Sidney Ellen Wade and President Shepard?
Andrew Shepard.
Well, I think it does. I think it's really, and this is where, the West Wing program was able to delve more into like the politics. I think this one is very in balance, where you get enough of the politics so that there's, a thing to be discussed, right? You have a crime bill, you have the environmental bill, and you have approval ratings. But so that kind of helps drive the story, but it's not like the focal point of the whole movie. And so I think it's really carried along by seeing the relationship between Sidney Ellen Wade and Andrew Shepard, and how do they treat each other? They aren't sure if this is going to work out. If it's supposed to work out, is this okay? There's a little bit of the, I guess, more comedic moments is them kind of getting over the whole title thing. It's fun seeing the role reversal. When he's like, when she spends the night for the first time, and he's like, here's the thing. The other first ladies weren't scared because they knew their husbands before they were the president. Let me introduce to you my plan. And he goes through the whole thing, and she comes walking out, and he just looks and he says, my nervousness exists on several levels, or I can't remember the exact line, but that line absolutely lays me out every time I hear it. And he's just turns around, and I can't remember the exact line, but it was something like that. It was like, it wasn't uncomfortability. It was my nervousness, my fear or something exists. Annette Bening, she's just absolutely radiant in this movie. I think the Roger Ebert thing in his review said she proves, and he even says it's a cliche, her smile literally lights up the screen. I mean, it's just radiant. And I really like Michael Douglas, and it's just nice to see him as a good guy. You know what I'm saying? A good guy and good guy, right? Like, because in so many of the other things he's been in, it's always, it's been a little sketchier. He's been a bad guy or something, something like that. But it's just they're good people that are just trying to do the right thing and have a relationship, and just all the other stuff they're just having to navigate. And I think that makes for a great love story.
Pat, the line you're looking for is when he asks her, well, when she comes out of the bathroom and he goes, "Perhaps I didn't properly explain the fundamentals of the slowdown plan."
The slowdown plan, that's right.
And she says, "No, you explained it great." And he says, "Are you nervous?" "No." "Good. My nervousness exists on several levels." and then, like the follow-up line to that is, any expectations you might have given the fact that I'm, and she says, "the most powerful man in the world."
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. I think it's important you remember that's a political distinction that comes with the office.
Yeah.
I mean, if Eisenhower were here instead of me, he'd be dead by now. And number
yes. Oh, that whole scene is just, that is, I love that scene. When I first saw it as a kid, I was old enough to know I knew exactly what everything was, and so it was like, oh man, this is good. This is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like especially, and this kind of, I think, comes up quite a bit in Sorkin stories. I do like the scene where he's kind of talking back and forth with AJ, and they're doing the thing where he continues to call him Mr. President, and he's like, "You can call me Andy. We're best friends. You can call me Andy." And he's like, "You're the best man at my wedding, for crying out loud. Call me Andy. Whatever you say, Mr. President."
I will not do it in a house. I will not do it with a mouse.
Yeah.
I do not like green eggs and ham. I
Yeah.
do not like them. Sam, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it shows people trying to be good. They're trying to do the right thing. And I think, the scene where the proportional response scene, and it's one of those things where, he hits it from the standpoint of they're sitting there talking, and, well, we can do, this is very presidential. And then he just says, right now we're going to take down this building, and we're going to take down a guy that has no say in what his country does. He doesn't care about, he's just trying to work a job, go home to his family. And he's, and he goes through it's a really excellent little monologue there. And he's just like, this is the most unpresidential thing that I could do. Or you've just seen me do the most unpresidential. Again, I'm paraphrasing but I thought, boy, that scene really just, I thought that was just in its simplicity. I thought that scene was really well written, again, with someone struggling with, okay, well, what is the right thing to do? And again, we're seeing that line being repeated. What's someone has to explain to me the benefits of a proportional response. Well, in the West Wing, it's like, as I recall, they had, been attacked, and a certain number of the president's, I think, wasn't it, spoilers for the West Wing, everybody, you have time to turn off your cameras or your listening device right now. But isn't that when the president, the doctor that was examining him got killed and they had to respond?
Yes.
Or am I combining different storylines?
No, I think it's right. The same. Yeah.
And so he's struggling with, okay, I'm doing a proportionate response. Like, this doesn't mean anything. There's still going to be bad people in the world that are going to do bad things. And what is this? And then that leads that to the excellent Leo McGarry speech with, about that whole thing. In this, someone explained to me the proportional response is, okay, we were attacked. Now we're going to hit them. Like, it's just killing upon killing. Like, what is this? What are we really doing here? And so it's the same line, but it's just a different situation. And again, I think it really, it makes you think, like, again, in its simplicity, it really lays a scene out like, oh man, well, what are we really doing here? Is this just the game that we have to play in the world, and we all have to make the moves? And play the hand we're dealt, or can we really actually do something to prevent something like this from happening again? And how would you do it differently? And what was the better answer? And I think, I thought that was a really great scene. Again, showing the humanity of the people that are leading the country.
Yes, the episode you're looking for is called A Proportional Response.
Mhm.
And that's one of the amazing things about that show is that was season 1, episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that show just came swinging for the fences.
Yeah. And I want to say that went on. Didn't he go into there and he wanted to be like, he wanted like the not proportional? Didn't he even say like, what would it be if it was a not proportional response?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then he starts to talk about like in very big terms about, we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth with rain,
like
fire, with biblical
God's own
proportion
thunder,
and all so forth. What was that?
I think something like with God's own thunder or something like that.
Yeah. And then it was just like, and that was how that show broke it down. Cause then Leo had to take him aside and say, listen to yourself. Are you really going to say like, you can't? And then they showed the Joint Chiefs of Staff, like they add that next layer in, and it was, the Admiral says, Leo, we got to calm him down here. Like this, there's going to be a lot of these things. We got to, yep, I know. Don't worry. We're getting there. And it just, and I think that's, again, bringing it back to what we're talking about in this episode, this episode of our podcast. I think that's one of the great things that comes out of Aaron Sorkin's writing is that you really look at these things being explored from different viewpoints. And again, not just in terms of this is the Democratic opinion, this is the Republican opinion, but from just a human standpoint. Okay. How would we, how different personality types would address this challenge or this issue.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we want to say about this one before we head over to 3 questions? We head to the briefing room and answer 3 questions.
Yes, have some.
Yes, have some. I did look it up, Pat. The full line from that West Wing episode was, "I am not frightened. I'm going to blow them off the face of the earth with the fury of God's own thunder."
That's a little intense.
Tell us how you really feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. It is time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I will say when we originally were talking about this episode, because because of schedules and things, we ended up having to miss a week. When we were originally talking about this, Jeff and I had been texting back and forth, and one of the things that Jeff said bothered him a little bit about this movie was how she was always being referred to as Sidney Ellen Wade, always with the 3 names.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that's because she's actually a spy meant to assassinate the president, because all the assassins have 3 names.
Oh, look at that.
So there's your headcanon in a very different movie.
And what was Jeff's response to that statement?
His response was, yes, when I brought that up that she's possibly a serial killer or a presidential assassin, his response is that she's probably an operative whose job it is to get close to him only to assassinate him.
I see. Okay.
Which I followed up with, yes, because one of the last times I saw Annette Bening in a movie, she was a double agent in the movie The Siege, which I think also had Bruce Willis in it.
All right, well, there you go.
So there you go. Which, here's another little bit of trivia. At one point in time, Bruce Willis was considered to be the lead for this movie. Yeah. That would have been a little different.
We'll bet.
Yeah. I guess one of the earlier ideas of this one was that he was a former, he had been in the military, he was former special ops whatever, and so he was going to be a little bit more of a kind of gruff former military kind of guy. And so they were considering, was it Bruce Willis? And I want to say there was somebody else that was maybe more along those lines. But that was kind of early on.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing how much Jeff does love Aaron Sorkin, Jeff did share with me like a week ago his answers to our 3 questions. So I have his, so I will share those as well, because I know he wanted to try to be here tonight as well, but life found a way. So, all right. Question number 1: who is your favorite fictional president?
It seems like a cheat answer, but I think I gotta say it. It's Josiah Bartlett.
You gotta let Bartlett be Bartlett.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
That was also Jeff's answer, was Jed Bartlett.
Yeah, I think I told Jeff when we were talking about this, I feel like this is going to be heavy on President Bartlett, with a lot of honorable mentions, right? And it's hard to go against that, because that character is just so incredibly developed over the 7-year run of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yeah, that would be mine as well. What do you got, John?
That is also my answer.
Mm-hmm.
Was Martin Sheen's Jed Bartlett. Now there are other, like Dave from Dave.
Andrew Shepard from this.
Andrew Shepard from this movie. Yeah. If you want to go with, I mean, there are some that while that character of the fictional president was not a great person, the actor that portrayed that president did an amazing job with it. I'm going to go another one, kind of a follow-up, was Kevin Spacey playing President Frank Underwood in House of Cards.
For completely different reasons.
Very different reasons, yes.
I am very partial to Mel Brooks, so President Scrooge was a lot of fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
Another favorite of mine from a movie that I have wanted to watch for a little while and just haven't got around to doing it is President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Camacho. So have you gentlemen experienced the joy that is Idiocracy?
It's been
many moons,
a while, but yes.
Yeah. And just that name.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's pretty good.
Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Camacho.
Mm-hmm.
And his State of the Union address, I think, is just classic.
We can't forget Independence Day.
Absolutely.
Bill Pullman, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I forget President. I can't remember his name, but he was the fighter pilot and gave that great speech about
President Whitmore.
Independence Day. President Whitmore, and gave the excellent speech on Independence Day, which is so much fun.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind. That word should have new meaning for all of us today.
Yeah.
I actually
you have that?
I took part of that. I took part of that speech, and at my at one of my siblings' the wedding, actually worked that into my wedding toast.
I was going to say, did you have that speech memorized, or did you just kind of like have that at the ready because you jumped into that pretty quick.
I had part of it memorized, but then I had to like pull it up real quick to make sure I had all the right words.
Yeah. He no, so that's a great president as well. I'm trying to think of any other, like fictional presidents that are not just like bit parts, right?
Mm-hmm. I didn't watch 24 very much, but Dennis Haysbert was the president in 24.
Oh yeah,
my
pretty
my parents watched that one a lot.
He was good. 24, that was fun.
Of course, you got President Marshall in Air Force One.
Yeah.
Get off my plane. A great crossover that just exists in my head is crossover between Air Force One and Snakes on a Plane. Snakes on Air Force One.
Get these
and
snakes off my plane.
And it's Harrison Ford that delivers the line.
Yes.
Hey, kid. Get these snakes off my plane.
Snakes on a plane.
There's snakes on my plane. It's true. All of it.
If you want to talk about a tortured
snakes, why did it have to be snakes?
You want to talk about a tortured president? You gotta look at Harrison Ford's recent portrayal in Captain America.
That's true.
Yeah.
President. Well, spoiler alert.
Yeah. Right.
President Red Hulk.
Yeah, that's the one.
Mm-hmm. Although, if you saw the trailers if you saw the TV commercials, you know exactly what it is.
Yeah, they gave away maybe a little too much.
That was my biggest gripe with that movie. I enjoyed the movie, but my biggest gripe was don't show me that in the trailer.
Yeah, you knew way too much going in.
Whereas I will say, if you guys
by that, but
right, if you guys haven't seen Thunderbolts yet, there are some fun surprises in that movie that they do not give away. So,
well, that's good.
Great.
So, and if you end up going to see it, stay till the very, very end of the credits because there are a couple of post-credit scenes.
Oh, fun.
Noted.
And one of them may or may not blow your mind.
Ooh.
I feel like I just became my own internet meme. There are 2 post-credit scenes. Number 6 will blow your mind. Number 13 will shock you. All right.
But who does number 13 work for?
There you go. I don't even know what number 13 would be. Yikes. That's
indeed.
That's like the event horizon of bowel movements. Thank you, Bo.
I thought you needed,
Liberate tutte me.
The event horizon of bowel movements. I know what I'm Googling later, not on a work computer.
Oh, don't Google that.
I recommend not, actually.
No. Because whatever it is, it's somebody holding out their own eyeballs to look at it. And speaking Latin.
I'll turn the safe search to blur only.
Okay.
There you go.
You know what? Hey, do it on a work computer. What do I care?
Right? You'll get the phone call from Luke in the morning.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Mr. Canigallo.
John told me I could do this.
Hey,
we don't answer to him anymore.
That's at this point. I don't care. You go right ahead. I'm a lot more freewheeling than I've been for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
As you should be.
All right, number 2. Speaking of freewheeling, number 2. What's in your meatloaf recipe? And I'm talking food, not the singer.
Meat? I don't really have a meatloaf recipe.
Well, Pat doesn't eat meat, so I didn't know if there was a veggie option too.
Yeah. Whatever Jewel puts in their pre-made meatloaf, that's in.
Okay, I didn't know if because the answer in our house was because I don't really have a better answer, but I was looking to see if anyone had branched out and made different kinds of meatloaf or whatnot. But no, the answer in our house was also no traditional meatloaf.
Yeah, I don't have like a go-to recipe, but here's the nice thing is that like you can Google it and you'll get like 3,000 different options and recipes and ideas. And
I was
you know what
shocked
I'm
at how many variations there are.
yeah, that's always amazing to me. So that there's a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of amateur and professional chefs that are doing a lot of cool things out there. So I don't have a go-to for you guys. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Jeffrey's answer was also standard ingredients. The magic is in the homemade picante sauce.
I was just gonna say,
so
the one thing I'll zhuzh up is I might go with barbecue sauce instead of ketchup, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Might have to come back. We might have to branch out, try some different meatloafs, and then come back later.
Field trip.
Should have you know, I'm just saying, like, if we need to fill out
double meatloaf. I hate stupid meatloaf.
Mom, meatloaf.
The meatloaf, Mom. Dude, I almost chucked you.
I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to call you a meatloaf. I think we just quoted like 4 movies in the span of 5 seconds there.
I was just going to say that was
kind of
pretty
impressive, really.
Yeah.
We somehow ran
we
ran the spectrum from Christmas Story to American Werewolf in London and somewhere in between.
The next like Patreon episode, we should all be like, today we're trying out meatloaf recipes. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think that could be the way to pad some of our episodes out.
Are you saying we move away on the Patreon from talking about movies and doing our own version of Factory Seconds?
Yeah, but let's not move away from movies.
Okay.
Like, let's talk about a movie.
Okay.
While we're enjoying food somehow.
Okay.
I mean,
we know how that went.
Well, you know, the concept isn't wrong.
We can
Maybe,
we could enjoy the food and then record after we're no longer in a restaurant that has loud mariachi music.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Okay.
That was it. What was that line out of the movie The Ghost in the Darkness? It was something like that. Well, just because it failed doesn't mean that the concept was wrong.
Right, exactly. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been here for 10 years.
Exactly. And we're still here.
We're still here. Speaking of
we are Zion, and we are not afraid.
There you go. And we are not afraid. We're going to blow them off of the earth with God's own fury.
Oh, yeah.
With the fury of God's own thunder. Question number 3. If someone were to send you a gift basket and it didn't have a Virginia ham, unless you wanted to have Virginia ham in it, what would be in it? Jeffrey's response is, and his response actually fairly similar to mine, is movies or gift cards to rent or buy movies, snacks, preferably original Chex Mix, and a nice bottle of whiskey. I'm almost going to daily double that and say popcorn, movie tickets. If a bottle of scotch found its way in there, I wouldn't throw it away.
Yeah, I was going to say scotch and some popcorn and some movies. That sounds good.
Patrick, what's in your gift basket?
I was going to say a human head, but I was afraid that joke was going to fall flat, so I'm not going to say that. I'm going to pull that one back.
Oh, you went with the David Fincher 7 Gwyneth Paltrow commemorative gift basket.
Exactly.
This is the gift basket of Goop products.
Yeah. Yeah, gift basket. Boy, I don't know. I was just going to say fruit. You know, just fresh fruit.
Yeah.
But then you guys had all the movie and the snacks. I think that'd be a nice gift basket. Yeah, the snacks and movie one would be really good.
Okay.
Fresh fruit basket would be good. Trying to think of what else. I don't know what else would be in the gift basket.
I got to go back to your Gwyneth Paltrow comment. There have been, because budgets wrap up around this time of year, especially in school districts, and so there a lot of ordering needs to get done. So my office has been kind of a way station for a lot of Amazon boxes and things being ordered for to be used for the rest of the school year and over the summer and whatnot. And so because I have my own little office and especially given what's going on right now, I kind of just, stay in my office and put my head down and get my work done most of these days. Every time a new box comes in, or if I come into my office and there's a box sitting there that wasn't there, previously, every single time, and it would get so old if I shared an office with anybody, I always pass by and I audibly say, "What's in the box?" So either I just lean way too heavily into quoting movies, or I've got some kind of illness where there's some uncontrollable tick where I have to say that every single time, but every single time. What's in the box? Oh, it was that. What's in the box? Oh, headphones. Okay. Testing supplies.
Testing.
Well, that was the other thing. When somebody dropped off testing supplies for our assessments.
We don't do that here.
Yeah. Well, my first response, I looked at it and I pulled a Wilford Brimley and I was like, you could order your diabetes testing supplies, because I think it said testing supplies on the side of the box.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, Liberty can help you order your testing supplies. And you can help you live a better life. I'm just so glad I don't share an office with anyone, because I think I would have been reported to have some kind of mental stability test, or I don't even know what they do. Can coworkers have you committed?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Easily.
They could get you on a 24-hour hold, I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I probably need to be more careful then. Good to know. All right. Well,
Yeah,
I think we've saved democracy. I think we've answered who the best president is. I think we've decided what should be in everyone's gift basket. A human head, apparently.
I'm thinking about that gift basket, and I'm kind of thinking like maybe physical media, like CDs. Like I'm
Okay.
going old school. I'm going 1900s
Okay.
with this
All
one.
right.
I'm thinking like,
Some LPs, some CDs.
yeah, like back in the day, go to like a Borders Books and Music and just
Yeah.
clean out, oh, Pat's on a Buddy Rich kick. We're going to get every Buddy Rich album that we can find.
I still have a Walkman somewhere. I could go cassette tapes.
Oh, right. I think that would be my happy place.
You know what you don't get from Apple Music and Spotify and all those other places? The sound of sliding a cassette tape into the player and then closing it shut.
That's satisfactory chunk.
It is. Yeah, the 80s cha-chunk. That's exactly what it should be called, which probably would be one of our nicknames too.
Mm.
The 80s cha-chunk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'd be a good band if you want to do a band that like specialized in 80s music.
I'm just happy that when you ask the question, do you know what you don't get from using Apple Music and Spotify and all that kind of stuff? Like all of a sudden I had a list of like 30 things, and I didn't need to go into any of that. I could stay off my soapbox and rant free because you actually answered your own question. And so I just want to say I appreciate you for that.
I started the question and then suddenly you downloaded 50 million things from the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was just like, oh, okay. Well, would you like it chronologically or would you like it alphabetized? But then you answered your own question. And so my brain kind of did what the Millennium Falcon did in Empire Strikes Back. Just that, just that powering down thing. And I'm okay with that.
Your Neo was, whoa, I have 64 responses.
That's right. That's right.
Show me.
I know Kung Fu.
There we go. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode for the American President. Thank you for being here with us. I was going to say, oye, oye, but that's when the president shows up, not when we're leaving. This has been another episode of the 30-something movie podcast, where you can find us at 30podcast.com. And we are on Blue Sky, Instagram. I think we're still on Twitter. I don't know. We are places. So if you just want to search up 30 Podcast, you'll probably find us in most of those places. We are now in the month of May. So this is Boys and Girls Month. Our Patreon episode this month is After Hours from 1985. I'll do a quick little Patreon short on Thunderbolts now that I got a chance to see it from this year. I'm trying to decide if it's going to be spoilery. No, I won't have it. Well, It may be slightly spoilery, so just be aware of that.
Say that would be hard to be completely unspoilery.
It will. You know what? It is going to be spoilery because there's some fun stuff to talk about in those post-credit scenes. So it's going to be a 10 to 15 minute little spoilery thing on Thunderbolts. So just be warned. This month is Boys and Girls. So our collection here is we're going to start it off with Tommy Boy. And then I told somebody that this was one of our next recordings was going to be the combination of Tommy Boy and then Showgirls.
Mm-hmm.
Very different movies.
Indeed.
To which, and we'll get our opinions on it later, to which the one person responded, Showgirls, the movie that made nudity boring. Okay. And then our 10th anniversary rewatch is The Three Musketeers from 1993. And then we are going to finish the month of May with Bad Boys. Bad Boys, what you gonna do?
Is that really 30 years old?
That is 30 years old, my friends.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I know. Brutal.
Yep. It's a little crazy. Yeah, especially as we get into the stuff that came out when we were in high school. I'm looking at these and I'm like, there's no possible way that's 30 years old. When we were doing like the 1987 movies, I was like, oh, I could believe that's 30 years old. But now that we've reached 1995 and kind of from here on out, as these movies come up, I'm like, no, there's no way that, I mean, I'm only 30 and I didn't see these, as a child. So there's no possible way these could be 30.
Back to my earlier comment. 30 years ago, if I was sitting talking about movies with my dad, 30 years ago, that would have been the same time period back to like Mag 7, Bullet, Great Escape, Lawrence of Arabia. Do you know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's very humbling to him to think if we juxtaposed, that era with the 30-year mark, he'd be saying the same thing. Like, man, The Great Escape is really 30 years old at this point. Like what? But
yeah,
it's just hard to wrap my brain around that.
I was having a conversation with somebody at work last week and I had just read something. So I commented to them. I said, hey, did you guys ever watch The Wonder Years? And they were like, oh yeah, I love The Wonder Years. I said, okay, so here's something weird. The Wonder Years came out in 1988. And here was the person's first mistake. They're like, no, it didn't. It was much later than that. And I was like, oh, child.
No.
Maybe don't argue with John when it comes to the year something came out, because I have a scary encyclopedic knowledge. And sure enough, we looked it up and it was 1988. But digressing. So The Wonder Years came out in 1988, looking back at originally 1968. So 20 years. What I had read on the interwebs the other day was if you were to make that today, it would be somebody reminiscing about life in 2005.
I know.
Right.
But
Sorry.
again,
words.
But again, and I'm not trying to put a spin on it. That doesn't make me feel old.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel a continuity. Yeah. We all lived through 2005. It doesn't seem that long ago.
Right.
Okay, so does that make us old? Okay, but it's not like I feel old when other people, it's just that, I have a continuity to that time. That was like, I was living through those times. So the other people that don't have that were born around that time, or like, there's like a block there. That's the same thing that when we were watching The Wonder Years, the 20 years before the 1960s, that felt like, that was old.
And that was the comment. That was the comment I think I made was it feels like there's a much bigger difference in life from 1968 to 1988 versus 2005 to 2025.
Right.
Like I think life is very, like, I think I don't want to say things have stayed the same because there have been a lot of things that have changed, but the 20-year span from the 1960s to the 1980s seems like a big leap, whereas 2005 to 2025 does not seem like a big leap to me.
But do you feel like, okay, the operative words being to you, do you feel like that's because, okay, objectively looking at it, a lot changed in those 20 years, but not a lot changed in the more recent 20 years? Or is that just you lived from 2005 to 2025, so not a lot seems to have changed, where looking back from 1988 to 1968, that was a time before you were born.
Yeah.
So of course that feels like just that perspective. There's that block, there's that wall from where you began existence.
Yeah.
So do you think, maybe, objectively speaking, things changed more then, or it just feels like things changed more?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably it's because it was a time before I was born, and it seemed like things were, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
I know, just the weird way my brain works.
Yeah. That's okay. You don't, every time you look at a box, you don't have to quote a line from a horror movie. Or maybe you do. I don't know.
It's
one of the great mysteries.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And now going back to this, like the American president, in the 30 years since this movie came out, well, that kind of goes the other way, because you were saying we feel like a lot has changed in the political landscape in that 30 years, but the ideals being presented, at least to me, seem very fresh and relevant.
Well, all the issues they're dealing with are still issues we deal with today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, be excellent to each other. Go have some collaborative and kind-hearted political discussions, and go watch some good movies. And we'll see you back here next time.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock.